Hi, it's Janet Fitch, and if it's noon on Wednesday, it must be Writing Wednesday, where we answer your writing questions and think about all matters creative and emotional and what actually goes on the page. So this has been an interesting week. Staying inside more. We're having another wave of, or another wave, a steep uptick of our viral problems, and just staying inside. People aren't helping other people as much as they could be. Masking up, you go out, and it's just like a free for all. So, as writers, hi everybody. Hi Sayward. Hey Linda. Hi Brenda. It's writers spend most of the time in the interior. So hi Roberta. So it's not a bad thing. Well, of course it's a bad thing, but we can roll with it sometimes better than a lot of people because we are working on the inner world. It's what readers get too. Is like if you have a rich inner life, the strictures of outer life are a little less horrific because we have a place to go. And the first question I had was actually related to that. So these are questions that people have sent me during the week. If you have questions, hey Ruthie, if you have questions about your writing practice and what's going on, just put them in comments. I have plenty of time today to do that, address your questions. So, but the first question I have here is, as a writer or author, should you write when you are emotional, upset? Hey, Jill. Emotional, upset, or worried, or wait until you are yourself? Hi, Toby. Should you write when you're emotional, upset, or worried? Or wait until you're yourself? You are yourself. Well, it's all yourself, right? It's, to think that the absence of what my Qigong master used to call perturbations, the absence of perturbations. You might have to wait a good long time. So what I say is should is always problematic. Should I write when I'm upset? I'd say be more observational in general about these things. Not should I write, but can I write? I think if you can write, you should write, or should. If you can write, go ahead and write. Sometimes having a place to go is something to be treasured. That you have another world besides this exterior thing that's going on right now, where you can retreat and create. It's a space that the outside world can be pushed back for a while. You'll rejoin it later. Nobody's going to disappear in there, but it's a place to go where the demands and the worries and can just take a back seat for a while. They'll still be there. It's not, you're not, but it is, and it's restorative because when you are productive, coming back into the world, it changes your mood. You can detach from some of the exterior demands just for a while and actually accomplish something. So in worrying just goes, it's of no use to you or to the world. Whereas, the ability to detach yourself from that for a while and actually produce some, be productive, be creative. It's a refuge and it's a stable thing. Being in a marriage that was a difficult marriage for a long time, it was a stable place. I could always go back into my inner world, and it was there for me. It was a single, as I'm a novelist, it was a big, stable thing that was, I could always re-enter and work on that. And so if I had a day of good work, I would emerge and feel more put together and better able to face whatever was coming. So it's like if everything on the scale is heavy and dark and difficult, and to put something on the other side, something that works, something that you create, something that allows the energy to flow, it balances you. Doing work is a definitely an addition to your emotional thing. And sometimes you can't, sometimes you're just super worried and it chokes off that flow, because writing, like any other creative act, is it's a kind of play. And if you if you can just get that faucet to open a little bit, it changes everything. So even when I think I can't work, to sit down and try, I notice that sometimes that that ability to play comes back, and then to spend time in that space, I actually can get something done, and it lifts my mood. It puts me back in touch with my purpose in life, which you can easily get lost, and usually I'm transported. It's hard at the beginning. It's hard to, kind of warm it up when you're just like freaking out about something. But gradually you attach more to what's going on in the story, and it starts that ability to, it transports you into a place where you create something that makes you happy. Because even if what you're writing about is tough, the being of use, being a conduit to the energy of the world, to produce something that where there was nothing, that miracle, you're connecting to the universe in a different way. You're not trying to block things. You're allowing things through, and it's it's not only calming, but it's a very affirmative thing to do. And at least worst comes to worst, it just occupies me for several hours. It allows my mind something to do besides chewing on itself. So I'd say if you can work, if you can work. And generally I say don't wait, because that's, hi Kimberly, generally don't wait is always a good thing to know. So let's see what, here's some more questions here. The motivation issue, Sayward's waiting for news. Never wait for news. And the more you are sending stories out for publication, the more queries you set out to agents. You cannot wait for them to get back to you to write. And that's why I never personally apply for contests, because I tend to wait until I hear from them rather than just keep working. So if you're drifting, Sayward saying that she's waiting to hear back from an agent about a revision and resubmittal. So there, she doesn't want to rework the same stuff that's under consideration, because that's got to be a stable thing. You do exercises. Pick a short. I'll pick a word for you. One of the word exercises. So this is going to be a short, no more than 2 pages, double spaced, and use this word somewhere in there. And the word is shower. So 2 pages, double spaced, using the word shower somewhere. So you figure out all your associations with shower. The word shower, it can be a noun or a verb. Something can shower, not just water. Blessings can shower, all kinds of stuff can shower, or a shower. The plumber came in and worked on the shower, or the baby shower, the wedding shower. Should I send the gifts back if we break up? There's all kinds of possibilities. So do an exercise. And if you can't work on your big project, you can always do an exercise. It keeps keeps the taps on and will eventually feed into your larger project. So Linda has a question. The more I read, the more I realize how much work writing is, the higher caliber of work that's being published. I'm thinking by this time, why bother trying? That inner critic. Can I even compete? Okay. The important thing to remember is when you read, to read like a writer, which means how is this affecting your work? And the thing is that sometimes what you're reading is just too good, and it starts to make you feel depressed. Like, I could never write as well as, Annie Dillard, or I could never write as well as, Tolstoy, or whatever you're reading. If you find the impact of what you're reading to be negative on your work, like that's what annotations are, as opposed to a book report when you write about the book you're reading. How is it affecting my work? And if you find it's damping your work, if it's too depressing, it's too beautiful, in a way that is not inspiring, but is making you panic and feel depressed, put it down. Put it down. Do not read stuff that makes you depressed about your work. You want to be reading stuff that excites you, that you can only read it for a certain amount of time, and then you have to throw it down and go to work because it's so inspiring, so exciting. What they're doing is like, wow, I could do that, or something like that. So definitely, as a writer, you're reading, you always have to figure out, is it feeding your work or not? And if it's not, especially if it's paralyzing you, out it goes. No, I don't think that by the time you're 62, you should stop trying to do your art form. No. You want to not be depressed by what you're reading. You want to be excited and inspired. Yeah, so Ruthie is also a believer in disappearing into your work. And Faulkner said, I write only when I'm inspired and make myself get inspired every morning. See, I don't get inspired unless I'm writing. I believe the muse favors the working writer. So I just don't get usable ideas in the shower or taking a walk or feeding the dog. I don't have a dog, but at the moment. But I don't get inspired at random moments. I get inspired while I'm working. So I put in the labor, and then when I'm in there, then sometimes the muse comes and whispers in my ear. But she doesn't do anything for me when I'm, doing a crossword puzzle. Let's see. Yeah, Marla's saying it's inspiration versus low self-esteem. Yeah, it's always being connected to your own feelings, like this is your instrument as a writer. And you have to become very aware of how things affect that instrument. Maybe there's just too much steam in the room and it's untuning your violin, or it's too hot and it's going to crack you. You have to what's feeding you and what's just like too much, too beautiful. I'm reading a bunch of crap and you're just you're wasting your time, because what are you going to learn from that? But sometimes seeing something that's really bad is helpful, because you're going, oh yeah, I'm working harder than this guy. So let's see. Here's another question. Writing fiction based on a true story. How does an author decide when to deviate from facts or stay true to what actually happened? And they're saying in particular theirs was a personal story, not in the public domain. I find that when I'm teaching, that students who come in with a story that you begin to work with and they say, oh, but this was a real story. This really happened. They are more defensive than the average writer. They are less willing to change anything than the average writer because it happened the way it happened, and this had to happen, and then this, and then this. They have a hard time breaking the pieces apart and seeing how there is room for redefinition, combination, pulling things out, changing characters so that they orchestrate better. Often a story based on a true story has a protagonist that is too much like the writer, and so the writer has a difficult time seeing how the protagonist could be changed to better interact with other characters, or how other characters can change to better act with them. I think it's a very difficult thing for the writer to step back and change things that, especially personal stories, to change things that don't work as well and find a way to reframe what it is that they really want to say with the story in a way that it will make that happen for the reader, that it doesn't necessarily have to happen the way it happened. Say, you want to write about a weekend in an unheated house with a boyfriend who's trying to dump you. Why would you want to do that? I don't know. But say, based on your own experience. And the orchestration for the reader doesn't really work as well. The people aren't quite right. It doesn't make an inspiring read. And if you were able to change that boyfriend a little bit to highlight, the points that you need for that drama to work, I think all writing is in some way autobiographical. The emotional situations are usually something you're trying to express, right? So I'd say really, write it in third if you can. Get away from this being you. I know there's a lot of writers who use their own first name for the main character. But I think a lot of the time writers get stuck and they can't see a different way to envision the emotional story that they're trying to get through. So I think it's a very difficult thing to write true stories, or stories based on your own experience, your own family. You don't really need all your grandmother's backstory to understand this incident that happened to her in a certain time of her life. I think you have to somehow find a way to see that person as a character and not as your grandmother. Otherwise, just write a memoir. And you're going to need to do this in memoir too, because you can't tell everything. In life, we see the whole thing as necessary. The whole web was necessary to understand this piece, but we don't really need to understand about, Uncle Saul's alcoholism to understand Grandma's choice of, whatever. It's hard to know where to cut it off. So really try to think more, rename everybody, maybe a different location even. But try to think of them as characters and give them maybe a little bit different spin so that you can pull back a little bit and see where you can restructure the story. And then a bigger story, like something that happens out in the world, you want to use that. You don't need all of it. But if you want to tell the story of a public scandal, of, Teapot Dome and the Harding years, you don't need everything. You need that piece of it. And Historically, I don't like to mush up history very much. I began life as an historian, and it kind of upsets me to see things happening not the way they happened. But on a personal level, you have to supply so much. Um, and all history, and writing fiction, historical fiction, is about what you leave out. You have to decide where your story is, and then what you can pull out of it. Marla is thanks for saying all writing is autobiographical. Oh yeah, it's all autobiographical. Your sometimes it's autobiographical in ways that only your psychologist would understand. It's your kind of internal history that's being reflected. I know that my daughter can often not read my work because she understands where things are coming from. It's not necessarily the outer story that is the autobiographical part. It's usually the emotional story, and then things start getting recognized. So Roberta is writing family history fiction, and yes, making the protagonist a character and feeling free to explore that. I just interviewed a former student whose memoir just came out. Let's see if I can find it. It's called Confessions of a Gay Priest. And he said he had to think of himself as a character to write it. That if it was too in there, identifying too much, he wouldn't have been able to do it. So that's interesting. Alternative history, that's pure fiction. It just starts with an assumption, like The Plot Against America, Philip Roth. The idea that what if Charles Lindbergh had won the election, and he was a pro-fascist supremacist. So sometimes the alternative history starts with that premise. What if this one thing had been different? Speculative fiction. My husband writes a lot of short stories that have like one thing in which the world is different in one specific way, and then how does that story play out? Oh, good. Confessions of a Gay Priest is getting a little press, Linda said. Yay. Yeah, it's a really honest, no prisoners book. Let's see. Okay, here's another question. What was it like to write your first novel? This is from Ben. What was it like to write your first novel? Well, I was interviewed for a book called My First Novel or something, and I had like 4 first novels. So I had a book that was just a big mess, never showed it to anybody, never finished it. Okay, so there's a first novel. That's in the drawer. Then I had a book that I finished. I wrote it, I sent it out, it made the rounds and was thoroughly rejected. Okay, that's the second first novel. And the third first novel was read. It was something that wasn't my choice of genre, but it was suggested to me that I might be able to sell something in that genre. And I wrote that. That went around for 4 years. Finally sold. Never went anywhere. I don't think anybody ever read it. And it wasn't my heart's desire. It wasn't really what I wanted to be writing. So White Oleander was I think of it as my first novel, because it's the first novel that I wrote that I really put everything I had into it. It was the novel that I wanted to write. It really reflected me in a way that I felt was a first novel. So 4 first novels. Generally, the first novel is like it's like a first album, if anybody knows musicians. You put everything, usually one puts everything that you are and know into this. There's no pressure in one direction because nobody knows you from Adam, so you're not living up to anything. You don't have it. Nobody expects anything. On the other hand, will I ever get published? Will anybody ever like anything I do? I've just been rejected all over the place. Will this happen? Generally, it's you're on a tightrope. That's faith in yourself, interest in your own work, and when you start publishing other books, you'll realize how like the first novel it is, because you're always a beginner. You're never there. That's the great thing about any art form. You're never there. You're always becoming. You're always getting there. So first novels are very much like second novel, although they have their own problems. So first novel, will it ever happen for me? Second novel, can I do it again? Second novels really play havoc with your head. And is it the first novel that you've written, or the first novel that, when you're writing it, you don't know if it's going to be published. You don't know if anybody's going to like it. You depend a lot on your fellow writers who are reading, or your readers who are reading it and going, yeah, this is real. This is real. This is, they're not just playing with yourself. You're actually communicating something, and your craft, you're learning your craft, you're learning, your expression, you're learning what you think about the world. So the first novel, writing the first novel is it's a very exciting thing, Here's another first novel question. I have finished my first novel, but doing research discovered most novels are between 50K and 110K words. My novel is 39K words, 39,000 words. Would that turn off publishers because it is smaller? I go by pages, not by number of words. But in general, if the novel is too short to be, people are going to be paying whatever, you pay for a new book, 23, 27, for a new book. And it's very, very small. If they're going to go, is that $27 worth of book? Probably not. But there are books that are published, on the short side, and people love a good short novel. I have a list of my favorite novels on my Facebook page. There's a list of my favorite novels under 120 pages, and there's some of the best books, The Lover by Marguerite Duras, Being There by Jerzy Kosinski, The Crying of Lot 49 by Pynchon, 92 in the Shade by Thomas McGuane, Heart of Darkness by Conrad. There are many very short novels, and they become classics because they're not because, but they are especially reader-friendly because a lot of people, they want to start reading you, but they don't necessarily want to read, 700 pages of you to begin with if they don't know you. There are publishing houses now that are specializing in the novella, like Melville House, wonderful publisher. Definitely, they have sales too, so go on their website and see if you can pick up a bunch of stuff for cheap right now. I don't know how anybody good at math. My phone is unfortunately is my calculator. So 40,000 words is okay. I can do this unless somebody can just pull out their calculator and do this. Okay, 40,000 words is, and you figure 4 pages is 1,000 words. So 4 pages is 1,000 words. So if I cut that into, I don't know, what is that? 100 pages? 40,000 words? There's 2 things you can do. You can ask yourself, is there more? Is there more here that I'm not getting? Is there any point in here that I could get into and do a little more work, expand? 160 pages? Is that it? Well, everybody's coming up with that. 160 pages in manuscript. That seems short, but not impossible, if it's a really strong book. You could give that a try rather than going by some general rule. Heart of Darkness. And 160, that's not too bad. For Dostoevsky, that's a short story. But 3 novellas makes a nice book, makes a nice collection. A novella, the difference structurally kind of between a novel and a novella is the novella is very straightforward. It doesn't branch out the way a novel does. The complexity, it stays fairly linear. Whereas a novel goes off on the subplots and has a lot more complexity to it. So you can ask yourself, is it a novella in form or is it a novel in form? You can ask yourself, do you want to branch out? Are there subplots? Is there a thread you could pick up and expand? Or if you've basically said what you wanted to say, Heart of Darkness, I said what I want to say, Death in Venice, then let it stand. Let it stand and take a look at some of the novella publishers. A lot of the books we think of, as monumental are novellas, are very short stories, very short novels, or then you can have the 3 novellas if that's a form that you seem to like. Legends of the Fall, 3 beautiful short novellas together. And let's see, we have one more question. Would you encourage or discourage fiction writers from writing screenplays and television? Well, that's a good question. I would neither encourage nor discourage. Sayward's saying first novel was 53,000 words, and by the 5th draft it was 90,000. So it's it's how much work have you put into breathing life into the whole thing, or is it partially deflated? Are there areas that could still have more going on? So the question of TV and screenwriting, would you do that? Would you encourage fiction writers to do that? I would neither encourage nor discourage this one. I think that having more skills is always a good thing. if you're a fiction writer, and you feel the urge to try form for the screen, why not? Might as well, get some more skills in your bag. You could adapt a short story of your own, a novel. It's a good thing to have in your ability, have the ability to do, but understand that it's not the same. It's not going to be the same. When you write a book or even a story, it exists. It exists. It's a wad of paper, maybe, but you put it on the shelf. Somebody can take it down and read it. Whereas something in the form of visual media, you are writing a blueprint for somebody else to make the finished work. I don't find it as satisfying. And then if you're in any luck and get it made, or in the process of being made is usually the way it goes, you're going to get notes from people who are going to want to change it, and not in very skillful ways. And you have to do what they ask you to do. It's work for hire. It's work. It's a blueprint, and the architect will come and say, your buyer will come and say, okay, now we want. You got to make this guy a woman, and we're going to put this in Baltimore instead of Paris, and you're going to give him a buddy, and we're going to cut out this whole story in there, and you're going to look at your thing in shreds. I mean, yeah, you're going to get the paycheck, but it's not going to be your thing. So nothing has authorship the way a novel, short story, or play will have. You are writing in a collaborative media, and it will take your singular vision, and some very untalented people will be telling you what to do. On the other hand, it's a paycheck. If you get a TV gig, it's a steady paycheck for a while. So it's a good thing maybe to learn how to do, but I think the biggest danger is that it might start altering the freedom of your fiction. If you have to kind of guard against writing movies as fiction versus writing fiction as fiction, you don't want to shy away from literary moves that don't translate to the screen. There are marvelous things that you can do on the page that don't translate. And if you're thinking too much in terms of the movie, then you're not taking full advantage of your whole palette in literary arts. So I wouldn't say don't try it. It's a skill. It's like learning to write a sonnet, learning to write something for like a poetic form. These screenplays and TV teleplays have their own. They are a form, and it's when people start mixing up what screenplay form and what, say, the novel can do, or the short story, you start really getting in trouble. That's when I hear people in class, what's the character arc? It's like, are you kidding? This is a novel, because you only have 2 hours in a screenplay. So you don't want to start paring away at the complexity of fiction to try to stuff it into the form of the visual media, act 1, climax, blah, 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 you don't have that. You don't have to do that. And you don't want even that, you don't even want to think about that that's something you have to perform in fiction. You have to keep that very separate from what you're doing. So Linda says, A famous writer at the book festival said that writing screenplays is what he did so he would have the time and freedom to write books. That's Elmore Leonard. Um, yeah, John le Carre, who everybody knows is one of my favorites, said that writing a screenplay from a novel, he adapts his own novels. So writing a screenplay from his novel was like turning a cow into a bouillon cube. That's pretty much it. So you can do beautiful screenplays, really well written. They're wonderful screenwriters. I don't know if novelists generally write good screenplays, or do they just get the first, like if their book is being adapted, they might take the first stab at the screenplay, first draft option, get the money for having written the first draft, and then they hire somebody else to completely change it. You can't preserve your novel by adapting it. You can't say I want the movie to reflect the novel that I wrote, and so I'm going to write the screenplay. You can only do that if you're producing the movie. So if you write the screenplay and then produce the movie, you can generally get what you want. But even the director will change things. So, it's a collaborative media. And I went to film school. Somebody told me, read short stories of mine and said, oh, you could write screenplays. And I thought, well, shit, I could make some money. This would be awesome. And I wrote screenplays. I went to film school. I never sold a script. I realized, hey, if I'm not going to sell anything, I might as well write what I want. Went back to short story writing. And I did not adapt my books into, for the screen. Screenwriter did that. People are attracted to my writing because I write in scene. So people can picture the film. But I would not be able to write a screenplay. My screenplays ran really long because I'm a novelist and I want to put everything in. And I see people and what people go through in the screen trade and how their stuff gets altered by people who are not particularly talented or insightful. And it would drive me crazy. I would kill people. I wouldn't be able to handle that. So, any last questions? All right. Well, thank you for joining me for Writers Wednesday. If you can write, hope you're writing well. Hope it's pushing out a little space for yourself where you can create. And if you have any questions during the week, just leave them in comments here, and I'll see them and address them next week. So thank you for joining us. Bye.